Novel Navigator. Chapter 11, Adam vs. Goatman. Adam ran deep inside the forest, jumping over the fallen trunks and dodging the low-hanging branches. Soon, a small ravine, about a meter wide, appeared in the distance. It looked like it was cutting the forest in half. Without stopping, Adam leaped over the ravine and landed on the other side. As his backpack patted his back gently, he lifted his chin to look at the mountain. He was already standing under the shade of the mountain and could already see the terrain moving up the mountain. I am close, Adam thought, and he continued to run. After a short while of running, he came across just another patch of snow, perfectly similar to the clear, white snow that was all around him. However, there was something odd about this snow that made Adam's brows furrow. His eyes narrowed into a slit, and he crouched, his knees landing on the snow, and he then touched the snow with his pale-skinned hand. He could feel the coldness of the snow, but something was strange. As he raised his hand and rubbed the snow between his fingers, he realized there wasn't any moisture in the snow. When he touched the snow a little further away, it was completely wet, completely different from that small area with dry snow. Adam's eyes turned serious, and he slowly moved the shield in front of his body, protecting himself behind it. He then stood upright and started to slowly move across the dry snow towards the mountain area. He was cautious and vigilant, scanning the nearby area like a hawk. At that moment, the snow behind him shifted slightly, and something started to emerge from the snow, looking like a blob of snow that slowly took the shape of a figure. Adam stopped moving, and his grip on the shield tightened. He then spun around and smashed the shield through the snow figure, blasting its face apart and causing it to crumble like a badly built sand castle. As the figure collapsed to the snowy ground, the ground around Adam started to shake. However, only the area within the dry snow began to shake. Snow chaos being, Adam thought without even batting his eyes. Swoosh! Snow spearheads shot out from the ground, piercing through the air as they headed towards Adam. Adam quickly shrank his body to hide behind the shield. Splash! The snow spearheads landed on the shield and caused Adam to stagger backwards one step. However, since the spears were made of snow, they couldn't handle their form, and as soon as they smashed into the shield, they turned into powder like snow and fell back to the ground. I need water. Adam opened his backpack, took out a water canteen that was still full, removed the cap, and started splashing it across the dry snow. The ground trembled as if a giant were stomping in the distance, and from the snow, a figure jumped out with a nearly furless body and glowing eyes. It looked humanoid as it stood with 2 legs, but it had a long tail, sharp claws, and the head of a goat. Its upper torso was naked, looking very similar to the male torso but as if it were frostbitten, and from waist to feet, it had goat's legs. Goatman. Adam emotionlessly thought without a change in expression. It was a part of the Chaos Being family, a group of horrific creatures that were the main opponents for players. They ruled the dungeons and the wasteland that laid beyond the New World. Players had been longing to conquer the dungeons for a while now, but they couldn't stop the Chaos Beings from respawning, as if they were immortal creatures that couldn't be completely annihilated. Zzzzz. The goatman let out strange and guttural noises as it looked angrily at the human in front of it. Its shoulder had a strange burn mark, as if it had been scorched by a powerful flame. During goatman's snow form, splashing water at them is very effective to make them return to their normal forms. Adam closed the water canteen with the cap and put it inside the backpack. Unfortunately, when they are in their real form, water would have no effect anymore. Adam tightened the straps on his shield and made it hug against his arm as if it were just another part of his arm. Now, only blood and shattered bones will have an effect. Adam approached the goatman slowly, his right hand reeling in slightly backward as if he were about to throw a punch at a moment's notice. Zzzzz. The goatman let out an unpleasant sizzling sound and revealed its sharp, black claws. I don't have all day. Adam lunged forward with a quiet whisper and smashed the round shield across the goatman's face. Thud! The goatman staggered to the side and shook its head with a stunned expression. For a moment, it seemed to be dazed and disoriented. Humph! Adam put the shield in front of his body and then tackled the goatman down to the ground. He then pinned the goatman down on the ground with the shield and threw a punch with his right, which landed squarely on the creature's face. Zzz. The goatman grabbed the shield with both hands and shoved Adam off of him. The difference in physical strength was very noticeable. After the creature climbed back to its feet, it launched forward and started delivering sharp and accurate slashes with its black claws. Adam hurriedly put his shield in the way and blocked the claws, but scratches started to appear on the silvery surface, and the durability began to slowly drop. Adam knew he had to act fast before the shield was completely destroyed. As the goatman swung its arm wide, its claws missed Adam's head by an inch, and he quickly took advantage of that. He decisively dove under its arm and swung his shield-wielding arm upwards, slamming against the goatman's chin. The force of the impact sent the creature stumbling backward, and soon it fell backwards on the dry snow. Its eyes shook, and it started to slowly sink back into the snow. It was preparing to escape into the snow. "No, you won't." Adam tossed the backpack over his shoulder, dropped it to the ground, and picked up the water canteen. Once the cap flew out of the canteen, he splashed the whole bottle on the goatman, who was already inside the snow, only its goat face showing. Zzzzzzzzzzzzz. It screamed loudly as its skin started burning from the inside out. Its chest turned charred, and the smell of burned meat started to waft through the air. Adam dropped the empty water canteen on the ground and watched as the goatman appeared from the snow, rolling towards the wet snow, wanting to get rid of the burning sensation, but it only got much worse. After a few more screams, it stopped moving. Its eyes looked lifeless. The goatman died. Phew! Adam heaved a sigh of relief and crouched beside the goatman's corpse. The claws look valuable, and the feet and the tail of goatman have value. That's pretty much the only thing I can get from its corpse. I cannot eat it, because that would be utterly disgusting. Adam scavenged all the claws and then used the shield to hack off its legs and tail. He then put them inside a bag found inside the backpack and filled it with cold snow and ice. While other players thought these items wouldn't decay, Adam knew they would, and their value would decrease. It had happened to him more times than he wanted to admit, and it was hard to prevent. However, he had learned a few tricks to try to keep up its value as much as possible. After putting the bag in his backpack, he slung it over his shoulder and turned his attention to the nearby mountain. I should be close. I wonder if anyone has found the boss yet. Chapter 12, Black Wolf. As Adam finished hiking up the mountain, he came across a mountain wall with an archway made of rocks leading deep inside a dimly lit cave. The only light source seemed to be the lanterns mounted on the walls, casting a warm and cozy glow throughout the passage. Adam turned around, and from the mountain, he saw the forest stretching for kilometers and the cottage in the distance, covered by the orange glow of the setting sun. At that moment, he heard loud panting, and Adam saw a group of 4 injured-looking players climbing the mountain from a different place than him. They took a longer route and a more difficult one. After they arrived at the same spot, they almost collapsed on the spot. However, they then realized that there was already someone there, and they quickly pointed their weapons at him. Whoa, calm down. Adam put his arms up in the air and slightly backed off towards the archway. Ugh! A player with disheveled blonde hair pointed his 3-pointed pitchfork at Adam and shouted. Give me your food, shield, and water, now. Adam slowly lowered his arms and chuckled. They must have been attacked by other players, otherwise, they wouldn't be so hostile. It seems that it's already starting the fight for resources. Why are you laughing? The blonde-haired player shouted and slowly approached Adam with the pitchfork, while his other friends were trying to replenish their stamina as they had been running away for a while now. You look a little bit fatigued, maybe sit down and relax. Adam stepped inside the cave. Or you'll die. Die. The blonde-haired player erupted into laughter. At least I have a proper weapon. I could take you, Adam said with a smile. As if. The blonde-haired player screamed and ran towards Adam, driving his pitchfork forward. While escaping from the group that attacked him, he had already used all his food and drink. He desperately needed them, as no one else in his group was willing to share. Adam put the shield in front of him and parried the pitchfork. The pitchfork slammed into the cave wall, causing its sharp points to get stuck. Ugh! The blonde-haired player cried out, trying to pull the pitchfork free. At that moment, Adam slammed the shield into the player's face, sending him stumbling across the ground towards his friends. As his friends stopped him from ending up rolling down the mountain, they turned towards Adam and saw him pull the pitchfork free from the wall. And now I have a weapon. Adam spun the pitchfork around and pointed it at the group of players. Not a weapon I am most familiar with, but this shall do. Arg! The three of the blonde-haired friends lunged forward and approached the cave entrance with their weapons in hand. However, as soon as they stepped inside the cave, they noticed they couldn't walk side by side and instead had to attack Adam individually. There wasn't enough space. However, they didn't think much of it. A man with thick eyebrows approached Adam with a baton in hand. He was more muscular than his opponent, so he expected this to be an easy victory as long he gets a clean hit. He lifted his baton and smashed it down like a blacksmith hammering a piece of hot metal. Adam raised the shield above his hand as soon as the baton struck it, and he bent his knees slightly to reduce the impact. Then he grabbed the pitchfork tightly and stabbed it through the man's waist like a farmer stabbing through a haystack. Arg! The man cried out and saw his health plummet as the result of catastrophic hit. Minus 25 HP. HP, 2/50. He was already injured before the fight and was only able to increase it to 27 HP with the food found in his backpack. However, now that he was also in a bleeding state, he slowly lost his health. Minus 1 HP. Minus 1 HP. At last, his body fell lifelessly to the ground. His friends let out few gasps of shock as they saw their strongest member die like nothing. Adam had gotten used to the sight of gaining experience from the kill. However, now, no such thing appeared, as it wasn't possible in the tutorial. Adam quickly jumped over the corpse and stabbed the pitchfork through another player's face. He drove the pitchfork to the ground, with the player's face stuck in it, and as soon as the player's head crashed into the ground, the light left his eyes, and he also died. The red-haired player, who saw two of his friends die, quickly backed off from the cave and turned around to jump off the mountain. It wasn't a big fall, but he ended up rolling down like a boulder and eventually hitting a little bit too many rocks on the way and dying because of the loss of health. The blonde-haired player's eyes shook as he watched Adam walk out of the cave, blood-stained pitchfork in hand. He then chuckled and put his arms up in the air. All right, I give up. You can kill me. Appreciated. Adam raised the pitchfork and beheaded the blonde-haired player swiftly. As he looked at the three corpses, he went to check their backpacks and saw they had eaten most of their rations and drank all their water. It frustrated him slightly, but he found a few claws and teeth belonging to some animals and also received their weapons. Including the pitchfork, one had a baton, and the third one had a mallet. He tossed the baton and mallet into his inventory, planning to sell them later, and he also put the claws and the teeth inside his inventory. However, he put the bags found inside their backpacks inside his own backpack. He didn't want to put his inventory completely full, as the game had such a mechanic that the more items on the inventory, the heavier it felt to move. Adam glanced at the corpses and saw them turn transparent with each passing second, as if they were about to vanish. He then looked at the archway, saw its strange engravings, and then stepped inside the cave, walking over the corpses. As he ventured deeper into the mountain, he started hearing the echoing of weapons and the roars of creatures. Someone is fighting close. That could mean no one has reached boss yet. With the shield and pitchfork in hand, he picked up his pace and soon walked out of the passage. He entered a spacious room with another archway on the other side of the room. However, in the middle of the room, 4 different groups of players and 1 solo player were fighting against a large, four-legged creature with a barbed-wired tail and the appearance of a black-furred wolf. It looked difficult to defeat such a beast, even with over a dozen players gathered. TCH. Donald wanted to attack, but one of the different groups managed to do it before, which made timing the attack difficult. He wanted to kill everyone else in the room, but he didn't want to attract their anger, so he tried to be patient. Near their group, Seth was holding a steel short sword, which looked to be very high quality. As some players saw the sword, a tinge of greed appeared in their eyes. They are still blocked by Black Wolf, hey. Adam thought and was somewhat surprised to see Seth, but when he saw his weapon, he felt a slight pity. Oh, he received the best weapon of the early tutorial. How unfortunate, he'll be killed soon. At that moment, more footsteps came from the passageway. Yawn, well, look what we have here. A grinning man tapped his machete against his shoulder. He had a tattoo covering half of his face, and there were silver earrings adorning his ears. Beside him, two of his friends were also tattooed from head to toe, one with brass knuckles and the other holding a large knife. Adam looked over his shoulder at them and had a brief surprise flash by his eyes before his gaze turned into the calm look, which he had carried since the start of the tutorial. These guys. I know them. Chapter 13, Magma. Ramon, Parrish, and Hannibal. Adam thought as the three tattooed men looked around the room with a gaze that could only belong to apex predators. Necroman's three lunatics. Instead of being in asylum, they were put inside Mortal Online. I guess the experiment of whether Mortal Online can have a positive impact on the mentality of lunatics has started. Of course, it has zero impact, they just get the freedom to do crazy stuff. It still works for the government, as they wouldn't be roaming the streets. Ramon, the man with half of his face tattooed, landed his gaze on Adam and smirked, showing his yellowing teeth. Hey, you! He pointed his machete at Adam and slowly approached him like a bully would its victim in school hallways. Did you steal our prey, hey? Well, did you? Parrish and Hannibal followed after him, their eyes uninterested and cold. Parrish had yellow hair, cold, and droopy eyes, as if he were always uninterested. A grey brass knuckle was clutched in his hand. Hannibal had tattoos covering his arms that looked like green dragon scales. As he opened his mouth, he revealed his unnaturally long tongue, as if it were a serpent's, and licked his lips before closing his mouth again. He was holding a large knife, which a butcher would often use to cut up meat. Prey. Adam remembered the players, whom he fought only moments prior, and their hostility. Ah, those. So, they were escaping from y'all. Ha, Ramon chuckled. Are you proud of killing them, hey? Well, news flash, we did all the hard work, and they were already injured. Good work, bastard. Hard work. Adam smiled and glanced at him with a chuckle. Hardly. Since you guys failed, it was my right to finish off what you couldn't. Ha! Ramon grinned and laughed. What a sharp tongue you have. It's a gift. Adam lazily shrugged his shoulders. If you let the prey go away, it's just a matter of time before another predator stumbles on the scene and takes advantage of the situation. Yeah, that is true. Ramon tapped his cheek with his machete. However, we let them go away. Why see, we like to play with our prey. We don't like when our fun is stolen away. At that moment, a loud scream sounded from the center of the room as the Black Wolf stomped one of the players, leaving behind a bruised corpse with all limbs broken and twisted. Well, it's the past. Ramon whispered and pointed the machete towards Adam playfully before starting to approach the Black Wolf. Ya fuckers, get out of the way. Hey! Donald and his group turned around to see a group of three approaching them. It's them. He saw them before in the cottage. They were the last people to arrive in the waiting room, but he didn't bother to approach them as he already had his own group. Also, he had a very bad feeling about them. Seth, hearing the commotion, turned to see the group and saw a familiar face near the passageway. He really made it here. Seth grabbed his sword with both hands and focused his gaze on the black wolf. I can do this. This creature must give a lot of points. At that moment, Ramon appeared in front of Donald and leaned close enough to make their noses touch. Piss off, brat! Donald stepped away and glared at Ramon with a scowl, but he then stepped out of the way and joined his group in watching as the three men approached the black wolf. Parrish slammed his brass knuckles against his fist and let out a scowl, ignoring the small health drop he received from that. Hannibal licked the blade of his knife and kept his other hand inside the pocket of his trousers. Grr! The black wolf turned its blood-red eyes at Ramon and growled loudly, releasing a stench of death and decay. A nice smell. Ramon grinned hideously and dashed forward like a wild animal. He then raised his machete, his fingers wrapped around the handle like snakes coiled around their prey. The black wolf swiped its paw at Ramon, but he rolled out of the way just in time. As he stood up with his grin stretching his facial muscles, he lunged forward and hacked the machete through the wolf's neck, leaving a deep, bloody gash. Ha 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 ha! Ramon laughed like a madman while twisting his machete inside the wolf's neck. Ho ho ho! As the black wolf let out a ground-shaking howl, then it started hopping like a prancing pony and shook its head furiously, trying to shake off the man. Oh, shit! Ramon's grip over his machete slipped, and he was sent to the air. He crashed back first on the wall and fell to the ground with a loud thud. He coughed up blood and saw his health plummet quickly. Above the black wolf's head, a health bar appeared. Black wolf. HP, 196/300. That attack cost Black Wolf 50 HP. He must have got critical strike or something because I don't think any weapons we got can create such damage. Donald thought with his eyes wide. We had been fighting this creature for nearly an hour and managed to barely inflict a little bit over 50 damage. He did that in a few seconds. Parrish lunged forward and delivered swift jabs at the black wolf's face, but the creature's thick fur and powerful muscles made it difficult to land a solid hit. The black wolf smashed its paw at Parrish, but he quickly dodged it and counterattacked with a flurry of punches. Pow, pow, pow! As the brass knuckle landed on the wolf's face, the skin started to slightly crack and the damage started to show. The black wolf howled in pain and tried to bite Parrish, but he quickly retreated behind Hannibal. Hannibal, with the large knife in hand, stabbed into the black wolf's chest, causing it to let out a blood-curdling howl. Then he started slicing through the chest as if he were butchering a fresh cut of meat. Not being able to handle the pain, the black wolf collapsed to the ground, and it looked like it was on its last legs. At that moment, Donald's and everyone else's eyes widened in a surprise. Whoever managed to get the last hit would certainly receive a lot of points. Arg! Ramon stood up and started running towards the nearly dead black wolf, with its HP nearly below 50. My machete, where the fuck is it, hey? At that moment, Donald, with his broadsword in hand, launched towards the black wolf and began hacking down like a relentless force, striking the wolf with powerful blows. Hey, trying to steal our prey? Parrish scoffed, jumped into the air, and sent a powerful kick towards Donald. Watch out! Nico appeared in the way of the kick and crossed his arms in front of him, tanking the kick. He groaned loudly, as this was a very powerful attack and was forced to slide backwards. Fuckers! Ramon screamed loudly. Once I get my hands on my machete, you all are dead. Ha ha ha, this is my kill. Donald laughed crazily, but near him, Samuel and Fama also tried to go for the kill. They didn't plan on letting Donald get even more points after his obvious kill steal. At the other corner of the room, Seth, seeing it all happening, nodded firmly and approached the black wolf. However, at that moment, the wolf's tail landed on him, sending him stumbling down the ground. Ugh! Seth groaned in pain and picked up his sword from the ground. The wolf is still alive. Why is it not doing anything? At that moment, a low howl came from the wolf. Hey! Donald and others stopped attacking and turned towards the wolf's eyes. Its eyes had changed colors. Its eyes were now glowing with a fierce light as if there was magma pool inside his eyes. Its body also started letting out smoke as if it were burning from inside. Thump! The wolf slowly rose from the ground, its black fur was now covered in a thick layer of ash and smoke. Then it opened its mouth and spat out a ball made of burning magma. As the ball of magma landed on the ground, making the fire spread like unstoppable wildfire, the players scurried out of the way, even though the creature's HP was incredibly low. Magma Wolf. HP, 25/25. At that moment, a figure ran past the players, holding a shield in his left hand and a pitchfork in his right. This guy. Ramon's eyes widened in surprise. It also has a second phase. Adam shouted, and ignoring the smoke, he stabbed the pitchfork into one of the last remaining exposed parts that still showed flesh, which wasn't covered in ash or hardened magma rock. The wolf's eyes lost their brilliant glow, and it collapsed to the ground. As the smoking slowly ceased, the creature became nothing but ash and dust. Chapter 14, Bloody Chaos Being. It's you. Donald angrily flared his nostrils. He wasn't happy about his kill getting stolen. Ramon picked up his machete from the ash pile and wiped the dust off its blade with his sleeve. My machete. He pressed his cheek against the blade and sighed deeply with great emotions behind his sigh, as if the machete was more than just an weapon. At that moment, Adam walked past him and approached the archway at the other end of the room, which led even deeper inside the mountain. Hey, you bastard! Ramon shouted, pointing his machete at him. You again stole my prey. This is becoming a pattern I do not like. Adam looked over his shoulder and saw most of the players gazing at him with hostility. He, after all, had stolen their kill as he didn't do anything except get the final hit. Still, it would be Adam who would get the most points, as he was the one who killed the wolf. This is competition. Adam said without any emotion and entered the archway towards the next challenge. TCH, Ramon clicked his tongue. Parrish, Hannibal. What? Parrish walked over to him while cleaning his bloody brass knuckles. Hannibal twirled the knife in his hand, his eyes showing a sinister light. I think I've found a new prey, Ramon said with a chilly tone as he watched Adam disappear into the passageway. I can't wait to see how this new game of cat and mouse unfolds. A small distance away, Donald whispered something to Nico and Luke, who were equally angry at Adam for stealing the kill. Near the archway, Seth walked into the passageway, walking slowly as he didn't want to bump into Adam accidentally. He stole their kill. Seth sighed. He'll definitely get killed for that. I only planned to hurt the wolf a little bit and maybe get some points for that, but now he had put a bullseye on his back. That is pretty foolish. Ahead of him, Adam strolled casually, as if he wasn't in any way bothered by kill stealing. He seemed completely unfazed by the situation. After a short while, he left the passageway and entered a small room that was a little bit bigger than his own room back in the real world. It had one door, reaching the ceiling, and covered the entire wall of this strange room. It had strange engravings, depicting scenes of battles and mythical creatures. As Adam walked closer to the door, Seth also appeared in the same room and looked at the door with fascination. Adam traced his hand across the door, feeling the intricate patterns and symbols etched into the surface. It also had two doorknobs, which he could use to open the door. However, he didn't do that and instead leaned on the wall, waiting for more players to arrive. Why aren't you opening it? Seth asked, curious about why he was waiting. It's a door to the boss room, Adam said casually. Didn't your brother tell you about this? He did, but why should we wait for other players? Seth asked with his brows creased. It's a good time to get a head start. Impatience is death in here. Adam said with a serious tone and put his pitchfork leaning against the wall right beside him. He then started fixing the straps on his shield a little bit, as they seemed to be a little bit too loose. Ugh! Seth wanted to enter the room and thought the reason Adam didn't want to was because he again wanted other players to do all the hard work while he went for the final hit. Is this why he wanted to play alone, because he can't do this with someone else? That is a very douchey way of doing things. At that moment, Ramon and his friends entered the room, followed by other groups of players, soon making the room packed. Donald and his group were the last, but they had to stay in the passageway as it was too cramped inside the room. "Why aren't ya opening the door?" Ramon asked with a pompous tone and grinned as he looked at Adam. "I'll keep my eye on you. No kill stealing for you anymore." Adam picked up his pitchfork in silence. "Humph." Ramon expected him to reply with his sharp tongue, and after not receiving an answer he was hoping for, he was quite displeased. Parrish and Hannibal walked over to the door, each grabbing one doorknob, and then pushed the door wide. After the door opened, dust flew in, and a stench of rotting flesh wafted in like a deadly cloud. They saw a spacious room, with pillars holding the ceiling in place. The room was circular in shape, and there was a strange magical circle in the center of the room. It was a 12-pointed star with strange symbols drawn inside the star. One symbol was a horned devil, one was a winged lion, one was a serpent eating its own tail, and the last one was a burning phoenix. After all the players entered the room, the heavy-looking granite door slammed shut, trapping them inside. "Hey, there is a door!" a player shouted, pointing towards the end of the room. There were 6 steps of stairs leading to an ordinary door. "That must be the door to the second floor." A group of players started running towards the door. They joined forces when they met each other in the snowy forest. The group consisted of 4 players, but each was a duo before joining forces. As they ran over the magical circle, it started glowing with the colors of the aurora, and 4 arms shot out from the ground, grabbing the players from their legs, causing them to trip and fall to the ground. As they looked behind them, seeing their legs held by strange arms that were growing from the magic circle, they started screaming and tried to cut down the arms. They were successful in cutting the arms in half, but shockingly, more arms grew from the magic circle and grabbed their limbs, then slowly started to drag them towards the magic circle. After being unable to use their weapons anymore, they screamed for help from other players, but they all stood silently, wanting to watch what would happen. As soon as the players were dragged to the magic circle, their flesh was ripped off like peeling paint, and their blood was sucked into the magical circle. In just an instant, those 4 players were killed and used as sacrifice for some satanic ritual because the blood from the players changed the magic circle's color from aurora to blood red. At that moment, 4 figures climbed from the magic circle. The shocking thing was that they looked exactly the same as the players who were killed moments prior. The players exclaimed by the shocking revelation. They wondered whether those 4 were actually those 4 players, now manipulated by the magic circle to do their bidding, unable to resist. However, Adam kept a calm face as he knew what was happening. The boss of the first floor cannot appear without a form, so at least one sacrifice is needed. The power of bloody chaos being, it has the potential to become one of the most dangerous chaos beings if it gets over 1,000 sacrifices, as it can create over 1,000 clones of itself. To successfully kill the boss, we need to kill all of its clones and kill its main heart, which is hidden below the magic circle. Chapter 15, The Heart. What should we do? A person asked. He wasn't sure whether these were the same players, and they were just mind-controlled. Therefore, he wasn't sure whether they should be attacking them. Attack, haha. Ramon laughed and slashed through one of the players' throats. As he grinned, thinking that was already 1 kill, the wound on the throat mystically healed. The player growled like a wild animal, grabbed Ramon by his throat, and threw him with unimaginable strength across the room. Ramon crashed into one of the pillars, leaving it slightly cracked, and fell to the ground with stinging pain. He spat blood off his mouth and saw that his health had received a dent. Ramon, HP, 28/50. TCH. Ramon took out a few breads from his inventory and ate them greedily. His health started to slowly rise. Parrish danced like a boxer around the female player, whose eyes looked hollow and lifeless. He then delivered quick jabs and powerful punches, breaking her nose and jaw. However, all her wounds mystically recovered, and with a low growl, she lunged at Parrish and tackled him to the ground. She revealed her rotting teeth and bit down on his neck. "Ugh, shouldn't we go on a date first?" Parrish laughed, grabbed her by the back of her neck, and tossed her off him. However, she took a big bite of his flesh with her, munching on it like a delicious dish. Shit! Parrish climbed back to his feet and saw his health take a hit. Parrish, HP, 25/50. At that moment, Hannibal appeared behind the female player and chopped off her arm. As the arm landed on the ground, tendrils grew out of its stump and reconnected with the female player's shoulder. She looked as good as new, once again. Damn, can these things even be killed? Hannibal thought out loud with a chuckle. The female player growled and lunged after Hannibal, who quickly ducked out of the way and slashed through her abdomen. However, that wound also healed within seconds. Donald, Nico, and Luke attacked a player whose face looked angry and launched their attacks. They managed to deal with lots of wounds on its body, but every wound healed mysteriously. A small distance away, Samuel and Fama worked together against the blonde-haired player, whose face was pale and lifeless. They managed to hack down its legs, but they grew back almost immediately. A short distance away, Ramon faced the well-toned player, who managed to throw him effortlessly across the room. But then a sword pierced through the well-toned player's chest. As he turned around to see who stabbed him, he saw pale-faced Seth holding his steel short sword. The well-toned player growled and slapped Seth away, as if he were swatting a fly. Seth rolled on the ground with a bloodied face, but he managed to keep hold of his steel short sword, as if he were clinging to it like his life depended on it. "Fuck off, brat!" Ramon shouted, not caring whether Seth could hear him or not. "This is my prey." He hacked down his machete, cutting deep into the well-toned player's shoulder, causing a gush of blood to spill out. However, the player didn't seem fazed and punched Ramon in the face, sending him stumbling backward. The well-toned player then pulled the machete from his shoulder and hurled it back at Ramon. Ramon's eyes widened, and he quickly rolled out of the way. The machete landed on the ground, right beside him. It was inches away from impaling his leg. Tui! Ramon held his nose, spat out the blood from his mouth, and picked up his machete again. Ramon, HP, 21/50. After eating the bread, he managed to get his health to 35, but with that single punch, he lost 14 valuable health points. At that moment, every player heard loud clanking noises, and for some reason, the players who got sacrificed stopped momentarily before screaming angrily. Then, they all turned towards the magic circle. They all saw Adam destroying the magic circle with his pitchfork. "What the hell is he doing?" Ramon asked with a frown, but then the well-toned player in front of him started running towards Adam like a possessed demon. Crack! Adam managed to create a big enough crack for the magic circle to be broken. It wasn't able to accept sacrifices anymore. Through the crack in the ground, Adam could see a large, beating heart pulsating with great intensity. As he was about to throw the pitchfork at the heart, all the possessed players lunged at him simultaneously, like a horde of zombies. "Not that easy, hey!" Adam quickly blocked the punch from the well-toned player with his shield and dodged the kick from the female player. As he backed off, the blonde-haired player screamed loudly and lunged at him with his mouth wide open. Adam dodged it seemingly effortlessly, but his footwork looked fluid, as if he had done the same motion thousands of times before. He then swung his pitchfork, separating the blonde-haired player's head from the rest of its body. All the players, who weren't possessed, expected the head to reconnect, as did the rest of the limbs before. However, to their shock, the blonde-haired player became nothing but a pool of blood on the ground. He died somehow. How? Donald exclaimed in shock. The magic circle was the reason for their regeneration. Adam thought and quickly dodged the attacks from other possessed players. What the hell did this guy do? Ramon zoomed forward and hacked off the female player's head, killing her instantly. As she also became nothing but a pool of blood, everyone's eyes gleamed with greed. Somehow, they were now able to kill them. They instantly ran forward towards the last two remaining possessed players and quickly overwhelmed them. They didn't care if they hit their allies, as long as they got the final hit, they expected them to be the bosses. However, while they were occupied, Adam approached the crack on the floor with the pitchfork in hand. At that moment, Ramon, Parrish, and Hannibal approached him with deadly intentions. Well, what are you planning? Ramon asked with a laugh and swung his machete at Adam. Adam quickly blocked the machete with his shield but let out a loud groan as the force of the blow sent him sliding backward. Hannibal looked through the crack, and his eyes widened in surprise. Yo, there is some kind of fucking heart in there. Oh ho! Ramon looked at Adam with a grin. I wonder who told you about that, hey? A distance away, Seth's eyes widened in surprise while he was cleaning the blood off his face. My brother didn't mention that. Wait, was he not part of the boss fight? Did he wait for others to kill the boss for him? A heart. Donald's eyes narrowed with greed as he finished killing the last remaining possessed player. Everyone gathered around the crack and looked at each other with narrowed gazes. The heart was completely defenseless, and it looked like an easy kill. However, who would be able to get the last hit? Arg! Adam lunged forward and tackled Hannibal with his shield, sending him tumbling to the ground. You bastard! Ramon screamed. As Parrish threw a punch at Adam, he quickly blocked it with his shield and plunged the pitchfork deep inside Parrish's gut. Ugh! Parrish coughed up blood and saw his health fall dangerously low. Parrish, HP, 2/50. Ramon, quick! Parrish screamed. Ramon hacked the machete down at Adam, but he quickly blocked it with the shield and slammed his foot deep inside his gut. Ugh! Ramon stumbled down to the ground with a loud groan. He felt like all the wind was knocked out of his body. Adam pulled out the pitchfork from Parrish's body. -1 HP. Parrish fell to his knees and saw another health point leave, leaving him with only one. He reached out to his inventory, wanting to grab one of his foods to restore his health. However, Adam then swung his pitchfork and slashed through his throat. Parrish's eyes widened in shock, and he fell to the ground dead. A silence fell among the players as they watched the scene unfold. Chapter 16, The Battle Royale. In his previous life, Adam remembered Parrish as the Necroman Guild's main damage dealer during raids. He was known for being one of the most skilled hand-to-hand combatants in the game. However, he was also notorious for being mentally unstable. Adam had no pity for taking away his future, as in the future, he would do some horrific things, and he was also part of Death Faction, which was the enemy of Star Faction. Why you? Ramon jumped to his feet, and with Hannibal, they lunged towards Adam with bloodlust raging over them. At that moment, Donald approached the crack with his broadsword, but then Samuel appeared in his path and swung his hammer at him. Look out! Nico shouted to Donald, as he was a little bit too far away to help. TCH. Donald dodged the hammer barely and shouted. What the hell are you doing? The partnership is over, you fuck. Samuel said coldly and rushed towards the crack, but then Luke rushed at him, swinging his baseball bat like a baseball player trying to hit a home run. Samuel quickly blocked the baseball bat with his hammer, but the handle broke on the impact, leaving him without the hammer. As Luke raised his baseball bat, ready to crush Samuel's face, Fama lunged at him and knocked the bat out of his hand with his axe. You two have made a big mistake. Donald shouted and rushed at Samuel with his broadsword. We have 3, while there are only 2 of you. While they fought, the other player groups also found someone to fight. Only Seth was left without a fighting partner, and he saw that there was a clean route to the heart. His breathing quickened as he had a chance to get the final hit on the boss, which would definitely give him enough points to become a mercenary, even if he didn't do anything after this. A distance away, Adam blocked Ramon's raging, powerful machete blows and simultaneously used his pitchfork to deflect Hannibal's large knife. He masterfully used both a shield and a pitchfork, as if both of them were other limbs of his. It was clear to everyone watching that the tutorial wasn't his first time fighting. "Who is this fucker?" Ramon cursed out loud while trying to smash his machete through the shield, but to no avail. However, Adam knew he couldn't keep blocking forever as the durability of the shield would continue to lower. There weren't any blacksmiths in the tutorial to fix the broken equipment. At that moment, Adam saw a lonesome figure with glasses on his face walking towards the heart, and everyone was too busy fighting to notice that. "Sorry, but I cannot allow you to do that. I can't afford to lose any points," Adam thought. At that moment, Adam dodged the machete and slammed his shield across Ramon's face, sending him tumbling to the ground. -5 HP. Ramon, HP, 13/50. Arg! Ramon cried out loud. Die! Hannibal swung his large knife down, aiming for Adam's neck. But then he noticed that he left himself far too open and saw the pitchfork coming towards him. Adam had a way better attack range with the pitchfork. Hannibal quickly tried sidestepping away, but one of the pitchfork's sharp points stabbed through his waist. Tch! Hannibal let out a pained grunt as the pitchfork pierced his body, but he managed to avoid the fate of the pitchfork getting stuck inside his body. However, his waist was bleeding heavily, causing a bleeding effect. -23 HP. Hannibal, HP, 22/50. Before getting stabbed, he had 45 health, and with that single attack, Adam managed to halve it. As both Ramon and Hannibal expected him to continue attacking, Adam instead ran past them and thrust the pitchfork forward like a fisherman trying to harpoon a fish. Seth, who was able to reach the crack in the floor, felt something approaching him, and when he turned to look towards the right, he saw a four-pointed pitchfork flying at him. It was headed straight for his chest. Stab! The pitchfork pierced through his chest, and then Adam kicked Seth in the chest, sending him flying across the room. Seth crashed on the floor and rolled around in stinging pain. It was still possible to feel pain in Mortal Online, that's why it was such a scary and realistic place. However, the pain was nowhere close to real-life pain, but it was still nothing to scoff at. As Seth opened his hazy eyes, he saw the damage he had received and almost felt his heart sink to the bottom of his stomach. -25 HP. -5 HP. Seth, HP, 2/50. The 25 health point loss was because of the pitchfork to the chest, but the 5 health point loss was caused by the kick to his abdomen. He had before already lost damage, but now he had lost a catastrophic amount and was at death's door. Also, he had eaten his rations before because he became hungry. He forgot the importance of food to restore health, even though both his brother and the help manual mentioned it. "You!" Seth looked hatefully at Adam, but when he tried to stand up, he still felt the pain from getting kicked in the abdomen. Adam looked towards the crack in the floor and approached it, but then saw a sword approaching with his peripheral vision. He quickly pulled his head back and jumped backwards while the sword missed him. "No, you won't!" Donald screamed as he blocked the path to the heart. "This is my kill!" Adam narrowed his eyes, and at the same moment Ramon and Hannibal dashed towards him. "So troublesome!" Adam quickly blocked Ramon's machete and smashed his pitchfork at the incoming knife. He then backed off while the two men chased after him with renewed rage. They didn't give him even a chance to breathe. They were relentless in their pursuit. As Donald turned to the heart with greed-filled eyes, Fama swung his axe at him, but then Nico jumped to defend his friend. The axe sank deep into Nico's chest, but he then grabbed the axe's handle, stopping Fama from pulling it out as he didn't want him to go after Donald. "Donald, go!" "Shit!" Fama tried to remove the axe from Nico's chest, but he was not letting go. As Samuel dodged Luke's fist, he saw that Donald was on his way to get the final hit. Not happening. Luke was swinging his fists as he lost his bat a moment ago, and when he saw Donald rushing towards the heart, his grin grew. At that moment, Samuel rolled down the ground towards the baseball bat and snatched it for himself. Luke's eyes widened in shock. Samuel swung the baseball bat with overflowing fury and smashed it through Luke's head, crushing his skull like a watermelon. Luke! Nico shouted in shock as he saw the scene. Luke fell to the ground dead. Donald! Samuel rushed past Fama and Nico, chasing after Donald. You are too late, loser! Donald laughed as he reached the crack in the floor. He grabbed the sword with both hands and stabbed it towards the heart, his smile growing wider with each passing moment. As Adam dodged the attacks from Ramon and Hannibal, he saw Donald seemingly be the one to get the final hit. However, his expression didn't change. Fools! You guys already forgot those arms. At that moment, creepy arms grew from the heart and punched Donald with a powerful blow. Cough! Donald coughed up blood and fell down to his buttocks. At that moment, dozens of arms left the crack in the floor and attacked everything that moved. Chapter 17, Safe Area. The creepy arms stretched like rubber and flew across the boss room, punching and slapping the players. The players were terrified and tried to run away, but the creepy arms were too fast and caught them. Several players were pummeled until they had no health points left and thus died. Adam smashed his shield at the incoming arm, blocking its fist, and then harpooned the arm with the pitchfork, impaling it down to the ground. The arm tried to struggle free, like a snake trying to escape from a predator. He raised his head and saw every player trying to cut the arms, but when they finally managed to do so, the arms multiplied like the Hydra itself, and now they had another arm chasing after them. They were completely overwhelmed and outnumbered. Adam pulled the pitchfork from the arm, and it slowly tried to grab his leg, but he then lunged forward, dashing towards the crack in the floor where the arms were coming from. He quickly jumped over several arms, narrowly avoiding the grasping hands and landing safely on the other side. At that moment, several arms stretched towards him, but Adam quickly blocked them with the shield and used the pitchfork to injure the arms, but he didn't cut them like others did. The closer he got to the hole where the beating heart was, the harder it was to move, and the shield began to show signs of wear as he had to try to block several arms at the same time. Adam masterfully parried several fists with the pitchfork and used the shield to push away the arms in front of him. However, one rogue arm managed to break through his defenses and land a blow on his waist. Ugh! Adam let out a slight groan. -3 HP. Adam, HP, 47/50. Arg! Adam sprang up in the air and deflected the arms that chased after him with the shield. He then landed beside the hole in the floor and looked towards the beating heart. It looked so close, but also so far. Every other player was too occupied to focus on him, as they were desperately trying to avoid the arms. After Adam raised his pitchfork, and put his arm into a throwing stance, several arms flew out of the hole and tried to snatch his weapon. Adam narrowed his eyes, and he jumped into the air, smashing his shield at the arms, sending them crashing down to the ground. There was now one open path towards the heart. However, the arms sensed that, and every single one of them rushed towards Adam, causing players to also see what was happening. He'll die. Donald thought while standing, bruised and battered. He didn't expect anyone to survive that kind of onslaught. However, at that moment, Adam screamed loudly, and his non-existent muscles bulged on his right arm. He then swung his arm around, sending the pitchfork flying towards the hole in the floor. Adam quickly covered his body with the shield as well as he could, and then felt the onslaught of the arms as they smashed their fists at the shield. He experienced intense pressure throughout his body, as if hammers were striking him. A few fists managed to dodge the shield and land a few hits on his body. As his health started to slowly drop, the pitchfork flew through the hole and stabbed into the beating heart. The moment it did, all the arms stopped moving and fell lifelessly to the ground. The beating heart released its final beat, and then withered like an old flower till nothing of it was left. Who? Adam kneeled down on the ground and held his waist in pain, his forehead covered in sweat as he tried to catch his breath. I forgot just how horrible stamina level 0 had. Click. The door on top of the stairs clicked open. It wasn't locked anymore. God damn it! Donald screamed, his blonde hair disheveled as if he had just survived a storm. His attractive face had long since vanished, and in its place was an expression of utter rage. Donald! Nico limped towards his friend, his clothes bloodied and dirty. Luke, he died. Humph! Donald scoffed and angrily gritted his teeth. Everyone useless. What were you doing? Your job was to prevent anyone from attacking the heart. Nico held his aching waist and lowered his head, knowing that he had disappointed Donald. Ramon and Hannibal looked at Parrish's corpse, slowly fading from existence. They drew a cross on his chest and then angrily glared at Adam. Near a broken pillar, Seth revealed himself. He had been hiding ever since the arms came from the hole, and it was the only reason he managed to survive. As he saw Adam deal the final blow, his eyes behind the glasses turned angry. It was my kill. Adam stood up from the ground and took out his backpack from the inventory. He placed it inside the inventory so it wouldn't hinder him during the fighting, but it also caused him to move slower because of the weight of the inventory. He then slung the backpack over his shoulder and walked up the stairs at a slow pace. Watch your back! Ramon shouted from near Parrish's corpse as it finally disappeared. Adam pushed open the door and stepped through. As his eyes got used to the light, he saw the surroundings, and it would be a very unexpected sight for many, but Adam expected it. It looked like he was standing at the entrance of a mall. He saw 3 floors, each filled with shops, restaurants, training rooms, and auditoriums for gathering. At the place where often there would be elevators, there were stairs leading to the 2nd floor of the shopping mall. The 3rd floor was specially created to house the players of the tutorial for those few weeks. As Adam looked around the mall, he saw many curious faces looking from the 2nd floor. They were also players from different time slots. They entered the tutorial earlier and were part of a different group. They would also finish the tutorial much earlier, much more likely. As the rest of the players stepped through the door to the mall, they looked with amazement, as this wasn't something they expected to see. Welcome to the safe area. A familiar but unexpected voice came from the stairs. Ron, with his wide-shouldered frame, walked down the stairs and approached the group of players with a small smirk. This is the safe area. Ron put his arms wide and gestured to the mall around him. This is a place between floors. It is a separate dimension, created for players who are doing the tutorial. In here, you can sell your items, purchase things for your journey, eat in the restaurants, and sleep. Sleeping is important, as your mind will still feel fatigue, so you have to sleep at least once a day. What is that? A player pointed towards a whiteboard near the stairs. It was right beside a store that sold weapons and the gym. It had notes attached to it. That is the mission board. Ron crossed his arms. You'll learn about the life of a mercenary here. The mercenary's main job is to accept missions and complete them without failure. Those missions can range from just finding a missing kitten to killing some dangerous chaos beings. What are those chaos beings? A player asked. Are those the creatures we fought? Everything will be explained in time. Ron said and then remembered something. Alright, the first lesson is about to start. Follow me to the auditorium. A lesson? Ramon scoffed loudly. Are we some fucking kids? Lessons for what? You brats have a lot to learn. Ron said that and smirked. Today's lesson: weapons and skills. Chapter 18, The First Lesson. The players got seated in the auditorium. As Ron sat on the last row with his arms crossed, the players saw another door from the front of the auditorium open. A long-haired woman with a book in hand walked in and took a spot in the middle of the stage. She then turned to look at the players, who occupied barely 1/10 of the seats available. The woman's eyes seemed to bore into their souls, as if she could see right through them. "Ron, are there any more coin feeders on the first floor, or has everyone either died or arrived here? Around a dozen cowards are left on the first floor," Ron said with a hint of disdain in his voice. "They should arrive here soon." The woman shook her head and said, "We don't bother giving them lessons. Tell them to go on missions or something and give them their room keys." Ron nodded. "Well then." The woman opened the book and then slammed it shut loudly. "My name is Dakota. I am your teacher for the duration of the tutorial. I'll teach you the basics of the game mechanics and some other game-related things you should be aware of. This is the safe area of the tutorial, and since it has safe in the name, this is supposed to be a place where players can move safely without the constant danger of being killed. That also means, we won't allow other players attacking each other in here. If we catch you, there'll be punishment. Now that I have said that, has any of you read the help manual yet?" Near the back of the auditorium, only one hand raised, and it belonged to Seth. As soon as Seth raised his arm, he frowned and looked towards Adam, who was barely keeping his eyes open as if he wanted to fall asleep. Why didn't he raise his arm? He said that he also read it. "Only one." Dakota shrugged her shoulders. "More than I expected." Ramon and Hannibal groaned as they couldn't care about lessons. They wanted to go check the missions and the selection of weapons. "All right, today's lesson is weapons and skills." Dakota pointed towards the blackboard behind her, grabbed a chalk, and began writing down the usage of the weapons. "First of all, each weapon has its own base damage," Dakota said. "Say information, and you'll receive the information about the weapon." Some players looked surprised and tried it out. To their surprise, they received information about their weapon. Adam also whispered. "Information. Weapon, pitchfork. Rank, basic. Max damage, 23 to 25. Durability, 75%. Description, usually a farmer's tool, but in the hands of seasoned warriors, it can become a mighty weapon." Dakota wrote about the rank of the weapon and about the damage. As you can see, the rank of the weapon is basic, the lowest rank. No matter what you do, you cannot increase the ranks of these weapons. That's why, mercenaries often change their weapons if they find a higher ranked one. Higher ranked weapons have higher max damage and won't break as easily. However, there are weapons that can evolve out there in the world, but none of you need to know about those now. The basic weapons will be the highest ranked weapon you can find in the tutorial. On the outside world, basic weapons are treated like garbage, but in here, it is your lifeline. Some players nodded keenly. After Dakota finished writing and drawing, she turned to the players and said, "Has anyone noticed that you are sometimes capable of creating more damage than the base damage?" Donald nodded casually and glanced at Ramon, who managed to create astonishing 50 HP damage, which would be a strong enough attack to kill any of the players. If you hit any of the vital points of your opponent, you can double the base damage. Dakota said and pointed at the blackboard. That is called critical hit. However, there is also a thing called instant kill. It doesn't matter how much damage your weapon does, if you do instant kill, your opponent dies immediately. That can only happen one way. Beheading. Your opponent can't survive without a head, that should be common knowledge. While players nodded, Seth was taking mental notes of everything he planned to write them down after they were done with the lesson. Also, the durability of the weapon is important. Dakota said. In this tutorial, you cannot restore your weapon's durability. It is another challenge of the tutorial. Outside the tutorial, only blacksmiths can restore your weapon, and it is crucial to do so. If the durability reaches 0, it will break and be unrecoverable. Dakota then wiped off the stuff about weapons and moved on to the skills. One last thing about weapons, their ranks will be on the mission board. Check them out when you have time. Now, Let's move on to the skills. The players watched as Dakota scribbled something on the blackboard. Soon, they saw a drawing of scroll. Skills can be learned through skill scrolls, Dakota said. They can even be purchased here, in the safe area. However, even if you purchase the scroll, you won't learn it immediately. To learn the skill, one has to learn it by himself and practice it until it becomes part of you, part of your core being. When you check the information about the skill, it will show the current completion progress. You'll have to reach 100% by simply trying to learn the skill. Once it reaches 100%, you can use the skill by just saying the skill's name out loud. No one else will hear you say that, and they would only see your lips move. The ranks of the skills are the same as the weapons, but the higher the rank, the harder it is to learn a skill. One skill took me 6 months to learn, so it definitely isn't easy. So, from early on, try to find a weapon that suits you, then find skills for that weapon, and it will be much easier than trying to learn skills for a weapon you don't know how to use. Do not underestimate the value of high-level weapons and skills. They can be even more valuable than having a higher level, as if you only focus on your level, you'll be in big trouble against mercenaries who are higher leveled than you. Only your stamina, HP, strength, and agility increase, which do indeed make you stronger, but you still cannot do more damage if you don't decide to purchase higher leveled weapons, which cost a lot. The players nodded thoughtfully. And lastly, the last thing for today's lesson. Dakota opened the book in her hand and slammed it shut. You all are coin feeders, the lowest rank. In this world, your value is as much as sidewalk trash. Humph! Ramon scoffed loudly near the back row of the auditorium. Hat! Dakota glanced at the rude player and said, if any of you complete the tutorial, you'll automatically become a level 1 player. Also, you'll receive your mercenary card and officially become the 2nd rank mercenaryman. Which is still low, and you'll be basically trash that has a little bit more value. However, the higher your rank becomes, the more valuable you'll be. You can acquire riches beyond your wildest fantasies. However, some players value fame and respect even higher. If you become strong, people will respect you. Perhaps, you'll remember this day, perhaps fondly, perhaps not, but still, any of you can become something of worth, but it won't be easy as only one death puts you right back to the bottom. If you want to find out just how far the hierarchy goes. Dakota pointed to the door that leads out of the auditorium. On the mission board, there will be mercenary ranks posted. For now, the lesson has concluded. Take your room keys from Ron and go do what you want. Also, the door to the 2nd floor won't be available for y'all yet. The previous group, which arrived here before you, hasn't cleared it yet. When the boss spawns next time around, it will be your turn. So, rest, train, and get used to your life in the tutorial. That's all. Chapter 19, Mercenary Ranks. Here. Ron stood at the exit of the auditorium, giving each player their own key as they walked by him. Your handler will wait for you in your room. What is a handler? Seth asked as he took the key from Ron. Your handler will explain everything, now move. Ron pushed Seth out of the auditorium and then handed the key to the person walking behind him. A short while later, Adam accepted his key from Ron and checked the number to see whether it was the same as in his previous life. However, it wasn't, just as he expected. Congratulations for the kill of the first boss. Ron added as Adam accepted the key. Most impressive. Thanks. Adam then walked out of the auditorium and pocketed his key. At that moment, he saw Seth walking ahead with his short sword dangling from his hip, as if he were announcing it to everyone. Adam's eyes turned cold, and he slowly approached Seth. As Seth looked at the key in his hand, he suddenly felt a strong tug on his arm and then felt his back crash against a wall. Who? He tried to draw his weapon, but Adam grabbed him by his wrist and held him in place. Why you, what do you want? Seth asked, his voice trembling. I want your weapon, Adam said, pulling out his pitchfork from his inventory and stabbing it on the floor. Give it to me. Why you can't attack me in here? Seth said with a shaky voice and saw other players moving by, only glancing at them briefly without caring. TW will punish you. I thought you were smarter than that. Adam smiled. They said if they catch you doing it, do you see them here? Seth looked back to the auditorium and saw its door closed. Neither Ron nor Dakota were here. We'll do a trade. Adam said with a smile. I'll give you the pitchfork, you'll give me your sword. A fair deal, I would say. Fair, ha. Seth laughed mockingly. This is blackmail. How is it fair when I get a worse weapon? This is my weapon, I got it. You don't get it. Adam glanced at the players who were walking by. You flaunt your weapon like an idiot. Do you think you'll survive through this day if you have this? You won't. Yet. Seth looked around, and just as Adam said, many eyes glanced at him briefly before moving on. He thought he saw other players looking at him before but didn't realize it was because of the weapon he was carrying. It's a fair deal, because this will save your life. Adam said and snatched the steel short sword from his hip. He then dropped the pitchfork in front of Seth's feet. Don't even say you do this for me. Seth angrily spat. You are doing this because of greed. Exactly. Adam tied the sword to his belt, with its blade sheathed inside a scabbard, and said. I don't do this out of kindness. You had something I wanted, simple as that, but it still doesn't change the fact that I transferred the bullseye on your back to my own. Why you aren't afraid of dying? Seth asked with a scoff. How do you have higher chances of survival than I have? I am stronger than you, that's why. Adam said and began walking away from Seth. Also, mercenaries have to be bold. You aren't a proper mercenary if you are afraid to make some bold choices. Seth clenched his fists and shouted. Oh, one day, I'll come to take that sword back from you. No matter how long it takes. Adam waved his hand lazily and said, sure, whatever. Focus on getting through the tutorial first, it's not looking good for you, point-wise. Seth gritted his teeth and picked up the pitchfork from the ground, which was left behind by Adam. I'll show you. After a while, Adam reached the front lounge of the safe area and saw the stairs leading to the second floor of the mall, as well as the entrance of the mall that led back to the first floor of the tutorial. At that moment, more players walked through the door, looking exhausted and disheveled. They were players who didn't participate in the boss fight. Look, losers have arrived. Ramon shouted near the mission board while his friend, Hannibal, looked at the missions. Who did you call a loser? One of the players spoke up, their voice trembling with anger but also with a slight fear as he saw the man's tattoos. You and the rest of you fuckers. Ramon laughed loudly. Watch your backs, losers. If I see any of you leeching any more, I'll kill you myself. Fuck the punishment. The players looked frightened and quickly moved by, their faces also looking slightly ashamed as they felt like everyone was staring at them with mockery and ridicule. Making friends looks like. Adam approached the mission board where Ramon and Hannibal were standing. Humph, you. Ramon's gaze dropped to his hip as he saw the steel short sword. Ha, poor little Seth. Is his corpse somewhere? Did you kill him like you did Parrish? No, he is alive. Adam stopped in front of the mission board and glanced at the tattooed man. Unlike Parrish. Fucker. Ramon gritted his teeth, but then laughed loudly. You have balls. Adam looked away from him and looked at the mission board. There were two posters made of goat parchment. One included the weapon and skills ranks, while the other had mercenary ranks. Weapon, armor, and skill ranks. 1. Basic. 2. Common. 3. Uncommon. 4. Rare. 5. Azure Rare. 6. Epic. 7. Purple Epic. 8. Legendary. 9. Golden Legendary. 10. Mythical. Mercenary ranks. 1. Coin Feeder. 2. Mercenaryman. 3. Order Giver. 4. Beyonder. 5. Holyman. 6. Grandeur. 7. Arch Warrior. 8. Royal Mercenary. 9. Prime Mercenary. 10. Royal Prince. 11. Grand Lord. 12. High King. Ha! Adam laughed inwardly as he looked at the mercenary ranks. I am back at the bottom, a fucking coin feeder. In my previous life, I reached highly respected prime mercenary, and coin feeders looked nothing but ants to me. Now, I am that ant. Adam glanced at the missions, which were quite different from his previous life, but some were the same. However, he didn't plan on taking any missions today, even though they gave quite good points. The handler is waiting in the room. I wonder who I get this time. The one in my previous life was annoying as hell. However, before going to his room, he planned to go sell his stuff in the store. Adam left the mission board while Ramon's gaze followed him like a hawk, and he walked up the stairs to the second floor of the mall. Soon, he found the merchant store, which had a few players from different groups browsing through the shelves. Hello, young man. How can I be of assistance? The mercenary asked with a smile, his name hovering above his head. Flame Keeper. NPC. Adam thought as he approached the counter. Most of the mall's workers were NPCs, also known as non-player characters. It was easier to hire them than have players do everything, as most of the players working in the tutorial areas also had to leave for real life often. I would like to sell my stuff. Adam said and placed his goatman claws, feet, and tail on the desk. Then, he also took out the claws and teeth he received from the players he killed, as well as the mallet and baton. Flamekeeper nodded and took out his monocle, then looked at the items intensely. Those are definitely goatman's, also in good condition. However, those claws and teeth are from a basic chaos being and are in quite poor condition. The basic weapons aren't also worth much. So, you'll get 8 shine coins from all of this. Adam nodded. All right. Flamekeeper's eyebrow jumped in surprise as he had gotten used to players arguing after receiving the price. They always have the illusion that the items they fought hard for were worth a lot. When they were struck by reality, they thought the merchant was trying to scam them. You don't want to bargain, hey? Flamekeeper chuckled. Fine by me. I expected to get less. Adam smiled. These are only worth 5 shine coins. You gave me some extra, so I appreciate it. Oh ho! Flamekeeper laughed. You're very informative, aren't you? Adam smiled and then accepted the 8 coins. The coins were shining a little bit, and they had a person's face engraved on them. It was the face of Conrad Moriarty, the High King. Whenever a player became a High King, their face would be engraved on the shine coins. It was the highest honor a player could receive. After Adam accepted the coins, they were sucked into his interface. Shine coin, 8. All right, now that I am done with that, time to go meet my handler. Chapter 20, Strong and the Weak. Room 331. Adam looked at the key in hand and then at the door with a sign that read 331. He inserted the key into the lock and turned it, slowly opening the door. A cozy room opened up with a hard-looking bed in the corner, a small table, and a candle next to it. There was also a carpet strewn across the floor and door to the bathroom. The room was dimly lit, with the candle casting a cozy light over the room. At the bed, a long-legged woman with shoulder-length black hair and a small beauty mark under her left eye sat with her legs crossed, browsing through documents while sipping a cup of tea. After Adam stepped inside the room and closed the door behind him, the woman put the cup of tea down on the table, closed the documents, and turned to look at him with her dark brown eyes. "Hello," she said with a mature and elegant voice. "I am your handler, Muriel." "Adam." Adam introduced himself and put the backpack down on the ground, then started taking off his winter clothes as he was already getting hot and sweaty. "Do you have any questions, Mr. Adam?" Muriel asked without much emotion in her tone. "How are my points looking after the first floor?" Adam asked as he sat down, dropped the winter clothes to the ground, and started taking off his boots. "You seem to know what handler's job is," Muriel replied with a hint of curiosity in her voice. "You record my points, keep an eye on me, and assist me in safe area. Basically, a babysitter." "Yes, that's basically it." Muriel nodded. "Also, I am original, meaning I am a native of the New World." Original, also known as NPC, Adam thought to himself and nodded. "So, how did my points look like?" "You are allowed to give me a hint of how I am doing." "Do I need to even say?" Muriel opened her documents and said, "Ron gave a high assessment of you, as you managed to keep a calm head throughout the first floor. You managed to kill Goatman, even though you seemed to know its weakness, it's still a very hard feat for Coin Feeder. Then, you managed to defeat a group of injured players. Injured or not, it was still an impressive feat for a solo player. And then, you showed excellent fighting capability against the boss, Bloody Chaos Being, and managed to find its body and even kill it. You got the highest amount of points from this group." Muriel closed the documents and looked at him. "Does that satisfy you? You left something out, didn't you?" Adam sighed and scratched the back of his head. "What are the complaints?" "You acted alone," Muriel said. "Mercenary never does anything alone. They need to rely on others for both raids and missions." Donald showed excellent leadership skills, as he was able to get several strong players for his side with just a few words. However, he ruined it with his greed. Still, he showed promise in this field and can learn from his mistakes. "However, you showed zero intention of even trying to work with others. If you had tried, more players would have survived the boss fight. If you do the same in a real situation, with other members of the guild on your side, there'll be big consequences. No one will want mercenaries for raids who'll only act alone for their own benefit. It's important to prioritize the success of the group over personal gain." Muriel closed her mouth, signaling that she was done speaking out her criticism. "I do understand all of that." Adam put his boots to the side and looked at the woman. "However, why do I want baggage that will slow me down?" "Baggage?" Muriel frowned. "I am stronger than the rest," Adam said with conviction. "They would just slow me down. Guilds also don't want mercenaries who cannot pull their weight in the raids." Ramon, Hannibal, and Parrish seemed powerful. Muriel said, her brows creased. "Also, Donald and Samuel have impressive combat abilities. Any of those would have been suitable guild members. Donald even approached you from the start, and if you had played your cards right, he would have accepted you as part of his group." "Accepted?" Adam smiled and stood up. "That's cute." "Excuse me." Muriel frowned. "A strong does not follow the weak." Muriel's eyes widened as she saw Adam towering over her, his navy blue eyes reflecting her face. "As you already saw, Donald and Ramon are leaders." Adam crossed his arms. "They wouldn't have followed me. I am stronger than them, so I wouldn't be following them. The strong rules, this is New World's mantra. A strong does not follow the weak follows the strong to become strong." Muriel's breath quickened as she listened to Adam's words. "And the rest?" Adam scoffed and shook his head. "No one else was even worth my consideration. This is not arrogance or ego speaking, it is just the truth and how this world works." "I understand." Muriel whispered and stood up while hugging the documents against her chest. However, your points might still be reduced if you don't want to work with others. If that's the case, so be it." Adam took off his shirt, revealing his bare chest. I am going to take a shower. Was this all? That's all. Muriel bowed and walked to the door. However, as closer she got to the door, the bigger her smile became. A strong follows the weak follows the strong to become strong. I might have gotten a very special player. Adam entered the bathroom and took off his clothes. As he stood below the shower head, with water falling down at him, he looked down at his waist, which had a big bruise. It was possible to get bruises or even scars. Bruises would heal, but the scars would stay forever on the avatar's body. There weren't any mercenaries without scars on their bodies. Points will most likely be deducted because I don't want to work others, but so be it. Adam sighed while feeling the water on his skin. However, nothing I said was wrong. I do not follow people who aren't worthy of respect. A follower would never get high enough points in the tutorial to be considered for top guilds. They would want people like Donald and Ramon, who are natural-born leaders. They'll learn their place when they leave the tutorial and enter the real world of mercenaries. I already know my place. I might have been prime mercenary, a figure of strength and respect, but nothing of that matters anymore. The quicker I get used to the fact that I am again at bottom, the easier it will be for me. However, I do not plan on staying weak for long. Next floor, the second floor, already has a golden opportunity I can take advantage of. It was discovered only 5 years later by Dean Morticia, who later became a good friend of mine and fellow general of Star Faction. Sorry, Dean, but this is an opportunity I can't pass by. I'll pay you later, when you start playing Mortal Online. Adam closed the faucet, left the bathroom with a towel wrapped around his waist, and sat down on the bed. Now, I need to press full throttle. Adam cracked his knuckles and smiled. There are hundreds of players in the tutorial simultaneously. If I want the council to truly notice me, I have to break some rules.